Evening, everybody. In this Lightroom skills session, we're going to look at file renaming in Classic. In Lightroom, it's a operating system command. So you'd go into your Finder and Explorer and rename it there. And Lightroom points to the folder where the file is. And so that's how you rename in Lightroom. In Classic, totally different way of working because Classic can control the file in the operating system. So you can rename in Classic. Why would we rename? Any ideas?
Well, I rename to hide sometimes the fact that I edit a file in Luminaire there. I don't want to advertise Luminaire, so
Mhm.
I change the file name and take Luminaire out.
Okay, so for those that don't know me, there's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. To me, it's learning the tool, which is what I believe a good educator should do, is show you how the tools work and provoke you to think about how you use the tools. Because why do we use a shovel like we use the shovel? Because we're told to use the shovel that way. But if we used it a different way, turned it backwards or whatever, you get a different way of using it, a different result. So why we would rename? It's to give us an information, or it could be a filing system. So when the file comes out the camera, it's usually something like IMG image and a number. Do you know what the number relates to?
Well, various things. Sometimes a bit of the date, sometimes just the sequence number that you took the photograph.
Mhm. Yeah, it's down to the manufacturer. As the camera app comes out the box, the manufacturer will decide the the letters, so DSG, IMG, and normally four or five numerical value. And that normal number, as a general statement, is what they call shutter actuation. Click, 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 click. One, two, three, four, five. And it will normally go up to 9,999 or 99,999. However, in your camera, you can change that. So you go into your menus on most cameras. We're not talking about smartphones. Normally you can't. Normally you can't on a smartphone, but you can go into your camera and you can change your file renaming to anything you want. It's up to you. You choose. It's information for you to deal with, and I will give you examples of my workflow and why I do it and how I do it, and I will show you the tools that you can do it. But I rename in camera. Okay. And the reason why is I've got a multitude of cameras. I want to know when I look at a picture instantly, what camera did I take that on? Because from that, I can decide what I can do with the image. And a general statement will be cropping, how big a print I can make from it. So iPhone 17, 48, 45 million pixel. I can do an A1 print, problem at all. I could probably print it, crop into at least half the sensor size and do an A2 print. No problem at all. I can tell that from the file name. Okay. That might not be important to you, but it's one example. I can also tell from my file names how old the image is. Because if it says D3S, Nikon D3S, well, I haven't had a D3S camera for at least 5 years now. And I had them from, I don't know, whatever it was, 2015 to 2020. So I know those images are 20 years old without even looking at anything else. So it's all about knowledge and information. Okay. So I'm just trying to provoke you with ideas. So out of the camera, here's a picture of a photo walk that I hosted a few years ago. IMG image. And it was number 3256 that I took. That's a Photoshop file, but there's the HIC file that I took on an iPhone. That's all it was a quick snap of the five of us together, six of us, seven of us together. Okay. That doesn't tell me anything, except I know it's with an iPhone because of the file format. Doesn't it wouldn't tell me generically how old it is. It wouldn't tell me the file name, that is, wouldn't tell me the pixel count. Wouldn't, so it's actually a useless piece of information. It's a waste of time being there. So all these, I have no idea of, you know, the file name. It's the space is a waste of space here. You know, I can click here and I can change this information in the expanded grid view. It's a wasted piece of information. So how can I use that, firstly, space and the file naming structure? How can I utilize it to my advantage, speeding up my workflow? And there's our dog at Sparky. Well, when was this? 2000, so it's 2 years ago. So he was only two on there on the beach in Minehead. So how can I speed up at my workflow to get me back out into photography? How can I use this space and the file renaming system? Well, it's quite easy. If we come over to our metadata and we come over to EXIF, because EXIF is the information from the camera, we have file renaming here. And I can just type in there if I wish. I could just type anything I want and it would rename it. So I could put underscore spark key. And that's now the file, as you can see here. Double click and press I for information. There is the file name. We'll talk about I for information on a Monday one night, what this actually means. But I've just done that. If I go right click, show in Finder, it's renamed it in the operating system. The actual file has changed. Now, this is the powerful bit. It's written a line in the catalog saying that IMG underscore 2243 was the original file name, but I've changed it. And what I can do is I can create a preset called the original, and we'll talk about this in a minute. And I can revert it back to the original file name. The original file name is what you imported it as. So if I go import, if I go to my desktop, I should have a folder. And I don't know if we can actually see it. Let's see if I can make them a bit bigger. Just here is a file, IMG 6517. That is the original file name. And Classic will put that in the catalog as the original file name. So when you change the name, what it's doing is actually doing it in the operating system, but it's making a version, a historical record that I called this Sparky at the end of it. Okay, so it's creating more data in the catalog. And you could rename your images for whatever reason you wish with certain information. So let's turn that back to the original. Now, if we go on to these images, let me just take this off here. And if I go there, we can see one of my file renaming. Okay, it's a big long file rename, isn't it? Now, some people will know what this means because they've been with me a little while, but for those that don't, can anyone hazard a guess what all this means? No? Okay,
It's
so
got the date in it somewhere.
yeah, I've got a date here, brilliant. So it's the 28th of the 12th, 2008. And so based on that, what do you think this is?
No, the time.
Time, yeah. 14, 58, and 53 seconds. So let's decipher this file naming structure. This image was taken at 2:58 and 53 seconds on the 28th of the 12th, 2008. Okay. Why do we do that? Because I knew where I was on the 28th of the 12th, 2008. Can look in my diary and go, oh, where was I? Oh, Braunton was on its maiden run on the West Somerset Railway on the 28th of the 12th. Everyone that's interested in this photograph knew that Braunton was on that day. That's a key piece of information for me. I know where I was on that day I was photographing, or I was photographing a football match, or I was on holiday, or I was in Grand Camp Maisie on the Normandy coastline photographing pillboxes. I knew that I was here. Date and time. What is important about date and time? What
Can't
is,
be replicated.
yeah, unique identifiers. Okay. Same as our house name and number and postcode, unique identifiers. They are not replicated. So this photograph cannot be replicated. Why? Because I've got my shutter actuation number here. This was number 20,009 that was taken at 14:58 and 53 seconds on this day. The next picture in the series, I don't know if I've got it, no, I haven't, would be 10, then 11, then 12, depending on how many pictures I took in this series of images. I might have taken 5, 6, 7 shots. If they were all the same, because this camera did 12 frames a second, this shutter actuation number would shoot off. This would shoot on 12 digits, but the time would be the same because it does 12 frames a second. But they're still unique identifiers. Date and time would be the same, but I'd have 10, 11, 12, 13, up to 23. Yeah, all unique. So this bit here, D3S, I knew I took this with a Nikon D3S, which is a 12 million pixel sensor. Okay. So what's my initials here? What this means to me is who owns the copyright, because sometimes I have done work that I don't own the copyright to. I have sold the copyright on, or somebody's commissioned me to own the copyright, and the price adjusts accordingly. So, who owns the copyright? The date that I took it, the time that I took it, the camera I took it with, my shutter actuation number, my file name. I can tell all that from there. Okay. And then there'll be things like relevance of light, the light in the afternoon hitting this side of the train because it's in the afternoon. If it's in the morning, it would have come from this side. Yeah.
What is the P in MSP?
Photography.
Okay.
So MS, my initials, and photography, photographer. Okay. So that's who owns the copyright. Okay. That's the date and time. That's the camera, and that's the shutter actuation number. And all this is done on import. Okay. So there's some other file names. These are all different types. MTPs that I don't own the copyrights to this. I always did some stuff for a newspaper. Okay, so it all tells me from this information. But this doesn't tell me anything. I don't know anything about these images at the moment in time. So let's see how I will rename this image here. How could I do that? Well, it's F2 on the keyboard, or if we come up to library, we come down to file renaming. And I've got one active image, rename one photo. And I can have presets. Okay, these are all presets. But what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the template editor to start with. This box here is where we type the information in that we want to appear. So at the moment, it's just got original file name. So there's the example. It's got in there a little small example, what it's going to look like. But I can put anything in there from the EXIF data, or I can manually type it in. So if I wanted to put LRM, Lightroom Mark, we can start to see on the example what the file name is going to look like. Now, from the EXIF data, we have 3 panels and they're drop downs. So we've got the original file name, we got the original file name suffix, and we got the folder that the file is sitting in. And you can select any of these or not. And you just hit insert and the field gets inserted. So now this is a formula. We are applying, we're thinking about what data have I got? What numbering system have I got that I can place into here? So we've got sequencing. So we can file rename for our images in our catalog, but we can also file rename on export. Why do I say that? I might be a wedding photographer, Smith and Jones. That's the bride and groom. And they've bought a package of 60. So when I export the images, Smith and Jones, and it will start at 01. So let's go and create a preset. So I'm going to save this as a preset, Smith and Jones, sorry, Jones export. Okay, so I've created this export and it's going to do a sequencing of number. I'm just going to go done, cancel that, and I'm going to take these. Let's take that lot, those lot of images. Going to file, export, and I'm going to put them into Smith and Jones. And I'm going to rename them when I find the renaming. Where has it gone? There it is. And Smith and Jones. Now, remember, the numbers are IMG 5613. And I'm just going to show me in Finder, export. Going to do 34. Smith and Jones 1, Smith and Jones 2, Smith and Jones 3, Smith and Jones 4, 5, 6, up to 34. I did 34 images. Now, some of you will know the story that I've said. They've bought a package of 60 images. They only see 60 numbers. I'm not creating a problem with the client because they've got different numbering systems. Okay, so these would be in a collection. Okay, so if I press X and missed out, see, look, this one is 10, 11, 13, 14, and then it jumps. So number 12 is missing. Well, the client might turn around and say, I want to see number 12. Well, they're not going to see number 12 because they've just got 1 to 60 because they bought 60 images. So there's a reason why you might want to export or rename on export. So let's go back. Rename. Go to the editor. And I've saved that as a preset, by the way. So I can just select it and it does it immediately. Okay. So now let's go back to, and you can have as many as these you like. Have a big long list of them if you want. Okay. So what would you want to do? It's your decision. But let's have a look. We've got sequencing, okay? So we've got sequencing, how numbering system. But we've also got date and time. And you can start adding these up. So here's mine, year, month, and day. Okay, then I put an underscore to separate it. And then I can set and go, right, hour, insert, oops, done it twice, minutes, and seconds. So I've now got the date and time. And then I might say, add the original file name. And that is very similar to my file naming structure. Okay, you can see it here. Okay, it means something to me. So when I change my file naming in camera, this will tell me D3S or D5 or Z5 or Z8 or Z9. So I know immediately that it's a 12 million pixel camera, it's a 24 million pixel camera, it's a 48, it's a 56, it's a whatever, 100 megapixel camera. So I know what I'm taking it with. What decisions can I make? I'm being an informed person. Okay. We can start using our IPTC data. So if you want to rename the image on export of the title of the image, who owns the copyright? So sometimes I support a good cause and they want the image. I've got a file renaming title. So that could be whatever's in, let's come out here, change this to, so whatever is in, and come down, ever in this field here, okay, it will take this information, okay, so litter bin, it will take that word litter bin, okay, and it will rename it on export for me if I wish. Okay, so what I do is, let's take this, and we've got the copyright information in there, so I'm going to create a preset, rename, let's go edit, and we're going to call it title, and then I'm going to go underscore, and then I'm going to go copyright. Okay, so I'm just going to call this new, so I'm just going to call this title. Okay, create, and done. And now I'm going to go to export, and then I'm going to change this to rename. That's the folder it's going to go in, so I can find it later. And we called it title. Make sure show and finder. There we go. And I can say I support some good causes, and there we go. I've told it to, let's find the one with title in it. There we go. Litter bin. I had other active images. Litter bin, which was in the title, and then the copyright. So what I will do is I might have a picture of, I did some for the Landmark Trust, which is a property charity. And I took some pictures of their property on Lundy. Well, it had the name of the property, because that was in the title, and I owned the copyright. So when they were emailed the picture, it clearly said in the file name that I own the copyright. It's my photograph. So I'm creating purposes. There's another one here. What's this? Minehead Beach, because that was in the title, and who owns the copyright? It's taking it from the IPTC data. So what we do is using the template editor, we can design lots of different formats and lots of different presets and lots of different templates. All right? So we've got the IPTC data, and then we've got dimensions. You might want to do different sizes of export, so 6x4, 1,000 pixels. So we've got dimensions, exposure. This is all the EXIF data. Okay, so we've got IPTC data, that's the data we give Classic. And then we got EXIF data, so did the flash fire. So you'd have on export, these ones fired with the flash, these ones fired without the flash. None of us here might do that. But if you're a studio photographer, giving the client the information. Remember, Lightroom and Lightroom Classic have to be the tool for every photographer. And then we have custom fields. We can add a custom field from our metadata. So what it's about is understanding the tool that we can use the file name from the camera if we wish, or we can create our own formula, our own idea of file naming, what works for you. We can create a template, and here's the powerful bit. When we go import, we can come up to file renaming. We can select our preset. Okay, so let's do this. Library, rename. I'm going to create my preset. So it's MSP. I'm going to put in there, let's find the right drop down, the day, month, year. I'm going to underscore, then I'm going to put in hour, minutes, and seconds, and then underscore usually, and the file name. Now I'm going to save this as a new preset, and I'm just going to call it MSP. Press done, cancel out of that, and I'm going to import some images. So here's some images, just some mobile phone images of walking this afternoon, had a break and went out for a little walk. Going to rename them, going to put them into this folder here. That's all okay, that's okay, that's okay, that's okay. Let's go into solo mode here. That's okay, one-to-one, one-to-one. I'm going to change my preset to MSP, my file renaming preset to MSP. Remember, Classic will remember this file name on import, will remember it. Okay, and it's going to go into this folder, and I'm going to move them in this instance. So I want to bring them out of that folder and import. I'm going to come up to my Classic, and I'm going to go previous collection. Here we go, and you can see they're already renamed. Okay? It's done it for me automatically because I've methodically thought about what I want to do, where I want to get to. And this is my workflow. I'm not saying it's going to be your workflow, and this may be too complicated or not what interests you. But you might put the location in here. Yeah, it might be Exmoor, it might be Devon, it might be, that might be relevant to your photography. Then you might not rename on import. You might rename a little bit later when you've put that metadata in the title or in the headline or in the caption as your headline up here. You might put that, so you might do the IPTC, fill in the IPTC data first, then rename them. So you've got this field headline or title in, because you're not going to have this on import, in the file name, perhaps with the date. And that might be relevant for your photography. A lot to take in. But it's about thinking. I keep saying most weeks, where do you want to get to? And I'm prodding you to think about where you want to get to. What is your photography? Is it a cataloging system? Is it names that are relevant to you? Do you want to rename for you? Do you want to rename for who you're taking the photographs for? So if you're taking photographs of community events and those type of things, do you want to photograph for the teams, etc., and so on, or whoever you're photographing? There's no right or wrong answer, but learning the tool, understanding the tool, creating templates will allow you to speed up your workflow and be flexible in your workflow. So this week you might go and photograph wildlife, and next week you might go and photograph a local football team. You might have two different renaming systems because that person, that narrative that you're photographing is for you, but that narrative you're photographing is for them. And you might want to photograph and rename them for them so you can find them easier, so they're relevant to you. So because when they come back to you and say Adrian 47 as the picture number, you can easily find it because they want to buy a big print off you. Yeah. But my file renaming is I rename for me. When I export, I rename for the client or for the end user. That might be the same file renamer. That might be the same file name. But my options are for, I need to go and find the photograph. I was photographing that cricket match on that day. It's my photograph. I need to know where to find it, how to find it, and what, normally one click by a smart collection. But when I then send the images to Somerset Cricket Club, it starts with Somerset SCC underscore SCC versus MG McGlamorgan and the date. And then I put the shutter actuation number, or I might put the actual action, what's happened. This bowler was, you know, bowled this batter or whatever. So it's in the title. And when I did a lot of cricket, I had different presets for different types of photography. Who was going to use it? Why were they going to use it? So if it was a picture editor, it would have a lot of the information in the file name and making it easy for them. Because I want them to buy my photograph and not their photograph. So I want to make your job easy. And by using presets, I'm making the job easy by thinking about what's my end goal. My end goal is getting some money off you by you buying my video or buying my images or buying my sound. How am I going to make it easy for you to part with your money? How am I going to find your job easy for you to find my image? Well, first thing will be the file name because that's exactly what they're going to type in. The name of the cricketer being bold. It's in the file name. Easy for them to find it on their Spotlight if they're using Mac or their browser or whatever. Can't remember what it's called on Mac these PC these days. Sudkana or something. Oh, anyway, whatever. So yeah, so it's thinking about where do you want to get to. Understand the tool that you could totally customize what you want to do, and then you can have different scenarios. Okay. Now, has AD put up one of those pictures that's just him sitting there and he's not moving? But, and you got that thing that moves the mouse like this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly at the wrong time, too.
So, does that help you understand renaming?
Yes.
Or have I just made it totally complicated? Okay, so let's say you've got a load of film images on selenized 35mm film. You're going to scan them. Is it important to you that you know that's a film negative? If it is important to you, you might want to put F or S for scan, F for film, what type of film it was shot on in the file name. That might be relevant to you. And you can do that as a custom field in the file renaming structure. There are other ways to do it. You can put in keywording as well and so on. But how quickly do you want to find that information? Do you immediately, when you see the image on the screen, oh, that's a negative that was shot on Tri-X or HP5 or Velvia or Provia or whatever? Yes, you could have it keyworded and so on, but now you've got to go and it's 3 more clicks to go and find that information out. By pressing I on your keyboard, up comes the file name, along with lots of other information that's customizable. And you can see the information that you want immediately. Okay? And that's the key bit. It's information straight away. And we all have different needs. Yeah. Is it a wildlife picture? Is it a football picture? Is it a project that I did of architecture and so on? How are you file renaming it for me? You file renaming it for the content. You file renaming it for the client, and you can file rename at different times. Import, cataloging it, exporting it. It's what makes you easy. So it's a whole ecosystem of what you want to do. Now, doing this for 10 plus years, I would say if they're in the catalog, you only use the catalog. It's your file renaming. But then if you want to change it for public use, you do that on export. Okay. That's from the experiences I've had with other photographers is you come up with some if date and time or narrative based formula and say, right, The first word is the content, it's the project, it's the narrative, whatever it is, and then you might have date and shutter actuation number. So you knew it was Yeovil Town Football Club, and it was this date, and that was my shutter actuation number. Yeah, because that's what you photograph. So it's narrative, date, shutter actuation number. And you can tell straight away if somebody says to you, "Oh, Brighton Hove Albion were guests, Brighton Hove Albion reserves were playing Yeovil Town in 2028." You could just go and find that immediately because you knew the date and you knew it was in there. It was part of the file name. Boom. You could manually go and find it, or you could automate it. Okay. So that's another thing to think about. Where do you want to get to? And how you can use that tool to speed up your workflow, finding those images. And on Monday, when we start looking at importing, followed by the following Monday, when we look at collections and cloud, and then on to devices the following week after that, all this will come together. File renaming, keywording, title, headline, description, where you store them, bring them together, smart collections, one click. There's all the images that I took of otters. All my images, all my 87,000 images I took of otters. Then you go to the library bar, bring the library filter, bring down your dates, and just click on the date and go, boom, there's the image. All this comes together. They're all tools that we use for different reasons. File renaming is one of those. Anyone, any questions?
Well, the shutter actuation thing is a bit complex because you're really taking that from the camera's naming structure.
Mm-hmm.
And the cameras, sometimes they'll restart sequencing if
Yep.
you've changed an album.
Yep.
One time I made the terrible mistake the night before a trip I said, "Oh, I need to check the upgrade the firmware." And I forgot to save the existing stuff. So
Yep.
it totally whacked my camera, and the sequencing started over at one.
Yep.
So you have to be careful that your
Yep.
camera is set up correctly for
Yep.
to be the sequence
Yep.
number.
Yep. So a couple of things there. If you're going to go and do something that's important, you're coming here 2.5 weeks away. Do not upgrade your firmware the day before you
Yes.
go.
Yes. I learned the
Do
hard way.
do not upgrade your firmware. If you're going on
Yes.
holiday, if you're going to go and do a project, do not. You don't know for the manufacturers with best intentions if there's a bug in the firmware. And if you've only got one camera, until X manufacturer has corrected the fault, your camera may not work. So if I can offer you one bit of wisdom there, do not wait till you come back. Wait for the people that have got millions and millions in the bank to change their firmware and for it to go around the internet and say, there's a bug in the firmware, do not update. Wait a week, wait 2 weeks.
You're 5 years late on that advice.
But
And the most frustrating thing is somehow it changed my camera. So when I pressed the shutter button, it took like 3 seconds before it actually took the picture. And I was zonked by time change, and I couldn't figure out how to get it back to normal. It was really a
okay,
pain.
right, okay. Not all cameras do this. Most modern DSLRs and mirrorless do, but not all. You can save how your camera is set up to the chip. There is a user bank that get an old SD card, an old CF card, whatever it is, and you can save on all Nikons that I've ever last 10 years. You can save. It's a user bank. You can save it. So You've got your camera set up really nice, how you like it. This button does this button does that. This button, my F2 at the bottom, and all my cameras, my F2 and all my cameras. When I press play with my right thumb, sorry, that's my left thumb, isn't it? My left thumb, when I press that, because I was looking at the screen, when I press that, I press play so I can see the image. And then I do that, and that's FN2, function 2 on the front on all my cameras. It puts 1 star on the image. I have all my cameras set up like that. So if I buy a new camera, new Nikon that is, I take the chip, put it into one of my older cameras, or camera and replacement I have, save the camera, and all the settings, all the buttons, all the file formats, the color spacing, the menus, everything all gets saved to the chip. Then I take the chip, plug it in the new camera, load preset, load user bank, or whatever it's called, and it all gets imported. File renaming, color spaces, function 2 button, this button, that button, U1, U2, U3. I don't have to sit there for 5 hours. Oh, back button focus with shutter actuation only on the shutter button, not focus and shutter. All that, all set up, boom, done. But if you've got a spare, I don't know, 200 megabyte old card somewhere, 5 GB card somewhere, back up your camera and then put it away safe. Because when the firmware, you install your firmware, it normally wipes out your presets or the way you got your camera set up. It resets it, as Jay has just said. So you go and get your chip, plug your chip in, load it back up, and you're back to where you were. Okay. So when you get to, I like the way my camera feels. I like the way all the buttons and the menus, and I understand it. Put the chip in, save it, put it somewhere safe, write on it, camera profile, whatever you want to call it, and you've got that saved. Just don't lose it. Okay. Anyone, any questions about tonight?
No, thank you.
No? 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 It's something we will look at more on Monday. It will add it into the workflow and things will start dropping into place. Okay? So hopefully I'll do the recording tomorrow for you and be up on YouTube. This one will be because it's Wednesday. And Monday we are doing importing. We're going through the whole importing workflow. I explain all the tools and settings. I did the user interface 2 weeks ago. And then next week we'll start looking at, or the following week we'll start looking at the collections and syncing with mobile devices and then taking the importing and syncing from the cloud and collections and how we can bring all that together so you can work away from your computer, but also work with your computer. All right. Well, have a nice evening. I'm an hour ahead, so I'm going to bed now. Take care, everybody. All the best.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.